The Orioles did lose the series to the New York Yankees, but we got more good Trevor Rogers, we got more good Kyle Bradish, and the O's may have found another special relief arm. That's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Monday, September 22nd, 2025, and welcome back into the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we are going to recap the final three games of the four-game set between the Orioles and the New York Yankees this weekend, with the Yankees coming in and taking 3 out of 4 in Baltimore. We'll talk about the Orioles on Friday night, going in there and pitching well. Trevor Rogers getting some timely hitting and beating the Yankees. We'll talk about a loss on Saturday that was kind of a dud, except for José Espada making his Orioles debut and turning some heads. And then finally, a game on Sunday that could have gone either way until a disastrous 10th inning for the Orioles as they dropped the series. We'll talk about all that and more coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast, which is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Go to www.5hourenergy.com or head to Amazon today. So the Orioles dropped the series 3 out of 4 against the Yankees. Friday's episode, I recapped the 7-0 Game 1 loss for the Orioles. This episode will be about Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the final 3 games of a 4-game set, the penultimate home series for the Orioles in 2025. Let's start with Friday. We begin this one with the one win of the weekend for the Orioles. Final score from Friday night at Oriole Park: the O's 4 and the New York Yankees 2, which at the time even this 4-game series at 1 game apiece. I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from that Friday night Orioles win. The first thing you need to know is Trevor Rogers absolutely shined in his final home start of the season. And this was his toughest test yet. Not only are the Yankees the number 1 offense in baseball by WRC Plus at this point, they're specifically propped up by the fact they're the number 1 offense against left-handed pitching in the league. They got a lot of right-handed mashers, including, of course, Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, but a lot more guys who are having some great seasons. And Trevor Rogers had 5 no-hit innings against the Yankees. He gave up 1 total hit. It was a leadoff single in the 6th. He struck out Aaron Judge twice and gave the Orioles just another marvelous start. 6 shutout innings for Rogers, 1 hit, 7 Ks, 2 walks, and 106 pitches thrown for Rogers, who now has a 1.35 ERA in his 17 big league starts this season. Just continues to be absurd. He had a few command troubles again this time. Remember in his last start, he walked a season-high 4 batters. This one, he did have 2 walks, and he also hit a batter in this game as well. It was an 0-2 sweeper to Goldschmidt that just got way away from him and hit Goldie in the knee. But he was getting a little extra strike zone into right-handers from the home plate umpire and definitely took advantage of that. Fastball in, changeup away was kind of the plan of attack, especially against all the righties in the Yankee order, and it mostly worked. And I really thought there was an at-bat against Amed Rosario. And to be fair, Amed Rosario at this point in his career, he's no longer anybody's starting shortstop. He is a bench player who can still hit lefties, so he gets rostered because of that, but I wouldn't say that anyone is going after Amed Rosario to try and change their team, but he was in the starting lineup Friday night for the Yankees against the lefty Rogers. And this at-bat, which if you're watching on the Locked On Orioles YouTube page, you can see it here, kind of the pitch by pitch. It's Rosario versus Rogers in the 4th inning. This is courtesy of Baseball Savant and StatCast. You can see what he does to him, right? He just begins the AB with a changeup, down and away. Then he dots a 4-seam fastball in the same place, down and away. Then he goes back to the changeup, and Rosario this time doesn't bite. He swung and missed at the first one. This one a little below the knees. Rosario's able to lay off to make it 1-2. So Rogers is like, all right, you've seen the changeup. Let's go back to the fastball. 4-seamer, down and away. Rosario finds a way to foul it off. And then Rogers says, all right, you've been looking down and away, down and away, down and away. Let's go to the sinker, and let's go down and in. Let's completely change sides of the plate. He throws a sinker right around the knees on the inside corner. Rosario hits it hard, but beats it right into the ground, right to shortstop for a 6-4-3 inning-ending double play in the fourth inning. And that's kind of a microcosm of what the season has been for Trevor Rogers, right? There have certainly been strikeouts, but he's had a plan to attack guys. He's had pinpoint command. And even when he allows contact, and even hard contact, which he's allowed a lot of this year, balls get hit on the ground. And generally, if you are allowing contact, even if it's hard, as long as it's on the ground and you have a solid infield defense, which the Orioles have had, you can turn it into a lot of outs. And that is just exactly what we have seen from Rogers. And he's going to make one more start this year. It's most likely going to be at Yankee Stadium next weekend. But in the live ball era, that is since 1920, these are the three lowest ERAs in a season by a starting pitcher who made at least 17 starts in that season. Number one, Bob Gibson in 1968 had a 1.12 ERA. That was classically known as the year of the pitcher, when pitching got so dominant that MLB lowered the mound for the next season for 1969 to try and boost offense. So Bob Gibson in the year of the pitcher is number one. Number two is Trevor Rogers at 1.35. And number three is that incredible Dwight Gooden 1985 season when he had a 1.53 ERA. That's your top three in the live ball era who have made at least 17 starts. It really puts into perspective how good Rogers has been and how good he could have been if he was healthy at the beginning of the season and didn't have to miss, the first 6 weeks with that knee issue. Just, we're so lucky to watch him this year. It's been the biggest bright spot of this season. I can't wait for the final start at Yankee Stadium. I can't wait for what he has in store for the Orioles next year. Second thing you need to know from this Friday win is that, Rogers certainly got a lot of help from Dylan Beavers. Now, at the plate, Beavers went without a hit. He was 0 for 3, although he did draw a walk in this game and is posting an absurd walk rate of almost 20% so far this year since being called up. But in left field, he saved that Orioles sixth inning. Because I mentioned Rogers no hit through 5, allowed a leadoff single in the 6th to the 9 hitter. It flipped the order over for the guys you don't want to face, including Aaron Judge. And Beavers just saved him. Paul Goldschmidt hits a ball to the wall. Beavers makes a leaping catch at the wall. Maybe saved a homer, maybe just extra bases. Either way, a huge out. Then comes in on the ball, makes a diving catch to rob Aaron Judge of a base hit. And then Rogers gets a ground out to end the inning and put up the 6 scoreless. And it allowed Rogers to get through that 6 scoreless at a season-high 106 pitches, even though he really labored through. He had a lot of struggles in that third inning. He threw over 30 pitches in the third inning alone, but he threw the ball well after that, got help from his defense, and still was able to get through 6. And there's certainly been some luck involved for Trevor Rogers. Certainly had luck in the 6th inning on Friday, but also had an outfielder in Beavers who's getting better and better defensively since he's been up here to add to the great offensive output that he's had. Third thing you need to know from the win on Friday is that Ryan Mountcastle hit his hardest home run ever. Solo shot leading off the second for Mountcastle against Yankee starter Will Warren, opened the scoring and put the Orioles up 1-0. Hit it 114.3 miles per hour off the bat in terms of the exit velocity, traveling 422 feet for Mountcastle. That is the hardest hit home run of his career and is the hardest hit home run by any Oriole in the 2025 season. Overall, Mounty's third hardest hit ball of the year on any batted ball and the 5th hardest of his career. But interestingly enough, 3 of Mountcastle's top 5 hardest hit balls ever have come this season. And Mountcastle's been in the big leagues since 2020. He hasn't really produced this year. I mean, he's been better since he came off the injured list, but still hasn't been good. Also had a big sac fly in the 6th inning to extend the lead, had 3 hard hit balls total. He's still hitting the ball really hard. He's got a 49% hard hit rate, got an 11% barrel rate this season, that is since returning off the injured list on August 8th. Those are good numbers, but it's not really producing results. I mean, entering play Saturday, it was still a 98 WRC plus for Mountcastle in that time. It's still a below average big league hitter, and it's mostly because of a 32% strikeout rate to a 4% walk rate. 32% well above average strikeout rate, 4% walk rate well below average. And he's even running a 375 BABIP, which should tell you he should be getting lucky on balls in play, but that's not the case. And I think it boils down to, beyond the strikeouts, which are obviously an issue, 50% of Mountcastle's batted balls have been ground balls since he came back from the injured list. That is really bad, especially for a guy in Mountcastle who used to hit a lot of fly balls. That would be by far the highest ground ball rate of his career. It's just kind of been bad for a different reason this year. It's going to be a much longer Mountcastle conversation this offseason. We do his full episode. Do the O's try and deal him? Do they non-tender him? Do they bring him back? What an odd season. That was a big swing in the second. He had a couple big swings in this one, but just a weird year for him. Fourth thing you need to know from the Orioles' one win in this series, that Gunnar Henderson had another big game for the O's. 2 for 3 on Friday night with a single, a double, a walk, and an RBI. Had an infield single in the sixth. That was the inning where the Orioles scored 2 runs to extend their lead. Ended up being 2 huge runs in the bottom of the sixth inning. Knocked Warren out of the game. Also got helped out by 2 Yankees errors. Do the Yankees hit a lot of homers? Yes. Do they pitch the ball fairly well? Yes. Do they play bad defense and run the bases poorly? They also do that. And that's what brought them down in the World Series last year. And I think is what's going to bring them down in the postseason this year. I mean, there were some rough errors in that sixth inning to allow the 2 runs to score. But then Gunnar also had a big hit. 2 outs, runner on, facing the side-widing, funky lefty Tim Hill. Lines an RBI double down the left field line to extend the lead to 4-2, get a huge insurance run on the board for the Orioles. And for Gunnar, this is entering play Saturday. His previous 7 games, 11 for 27, hitting .407, but still with no power. Just 2 doubles, no home runs in that stretch, 3 walks versus 3 strikeouts. I mean, it is a 173 WRC plus. That's the Gunnar you want to see. But the power's just left him, right? He's stealing more bases. He's walking. He's hitting. He's playing better defense at shortstop. The pop is not in the bat. I'm pretty sure it's going to come back next year after he hit 37 bombs last year. Could be a little bit with, the midsection injury. A lot of your power comes from your core. Maybe it never truly healed. We'll see if maybe a full offseason off can get that power back for him next season. And the fifth and final thing you need to know from the Orioles' 4-2 victory over the Yankees on Friday night is that the bullpen was able to hold the Oriole lead. Trevor Rogers leaves after 6 with a 1-0 lead. Orioles add 2 on. It's 3-0. Dietrich Enns did allow a 2-run homer to Jazz Chisholm in the 7th to cut it to 3-2. He retired all 3 right-handed hitters he faced in that inning, but the lefty hits a 2-run homer. And Enns has been really a big reverse splits guy with the Orioles. This is entering play on Sunday, so before the outing he had in that one. Lefties were slugging .559 and righties slugging .292 against left-hander Enns. And it's mostly because his main pitch mix, his best 3 pitches, 4-seam fastball, changeup, and curveball. Those are all pitches that lefties generally use to attack right-handed hitters. He threw the cutter to Jazz, which he allowed the home run on. It's not a very good pitch for him. He needs a better pitch against lefties. We'll see how that develops this offseason. But then Rico Garcia came in. He got Bellinger and Stanton to escape a jam in the 8th inning. He did walk Ben Rice ahead of Aaron Judge with a 2-run lead. You just can't be doing that, but he got out of his own mess. And then it was another Keegan Aikens save chance. And he converted 3 saves in a row. Now, we'll get to what happened in Aikens' next outing on Sunday, but 3 save chances in a row, pitching 3 out of 4 days, and converts all of those saves. Nicely done by Keegan Aiken, and the Orioles win the game 4-2. But they come back out there on Saturday. Didn't go as well. There was one really good pitching outing from the Orioles. Otherwise, a forgetful game. I'll recap it coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by Zippix Toothpicks. Whether you're looking for nicotine satisfaction or an energy boost, Zippix has you covered with their nicotine and caffeine-infused toothpicks. For nicotine users, Zippix provides a discreet way to satisfy cravings and the hand-to-mouth habit without vaping or smoking. Zippix can be a helpful tool as you work to reduce your dependence on vaping. It's available in 6 great flavors with 2 milligram and 3 milligram nicotine options. And if you need energy without the crash, their caffeine toothpicks are a game changer. And they got great flavors like peppermint watermelon ice. So go to zippixtoothpicks.com and use code LOCKEDON for 10% off your first order. Must be 21 or older to order. Warning, nicotine is an addictive chemical. That's zippixtoothpicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Zip more and smoke less with Zippix Toothpicks. And this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. And honestly, the best part might be how fast it kicks in and that it's sugar-free. So you don't have to worry about that crash coming later. So enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in-store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or at Amazon today. So the Orioles got a really good-looking win, 4-2 over the Yankees on Friday night, but unfortunately couldn't back it up on Saturday. Final score from Game 3 of the 4-game set was the Yankees 6 and the Orioles 1. Let's start with what went right for the Orioles on Saturday night, and that is Coby Mayo just keeps on hitting. Had an RBI double off the wall in left field off of Carlos Rodon, who otherwise was just fantastic for the Yankees. Rodon's been fantastic this year. 7 innings, 1 run, 8 K. He's got a 3.04 ERA on the season. But Mayo was the only guy who really got to him. RBI double, got the O's on the board in the 7th inning. Also had a single earlier in the game, his 3rd multi-hit game in his last 8 games played. And in September, now this was entering play on Sunday for Coby Mayo, but on Sunday he did pick up another hit in a 1-for-4. He's been good. 865 OPS, 143 WRC plus, 10% walk rate. Now, strikeout rate is still pretty high at 32%, and he's only got a 22% hard hit rate, which is super low, especially for Coby Mayo. It's been kind of a weird month. The production's finally, really for the first time in his big league career since he got called up late last season, Coby Mayo is having a productive month. This is by far the best month of his career. And it's higher walk rates and he's producing more, but he's also hitting the ball a lot softer. He's also running a 394 BABIP, which means there's definitely been some good batted ball luck involved. You see that combined with a low hard hit rate, and you're probably like, this isn't sustainable. So here's the hope. The Orioles have 6 games remaining in this season. Coby Mayo will probably start, I'd guess, 5 of those 6 games. If he can just sustain this good luck for 5 more games and go into this offseason with a really good final month, he will be having some sort of momentum going forward. The issue might be, I still think there are under the hood changes that need to be made in his approach and his swing. And is he less likely to do those with a final strong month to end the year? Possibly. I hope he's still open to them because there's definitely some big time luck happening with this. But if you pull back a little bit, Mayo's been so unlucky and has had so little success. I don't care if it's highly luck involved this month. He just needed to see some hits fall in, and that is finally happening for Coby Mayo. What went wrong from Saturday? Well, Tomoyuki Sugano was just not on his game. Now, Andy Kuska of the Baltimore Banner did write a story this weekend where he spoke to Sugano, and Sugano said that he plans to pitch in MLB next year, and he could certainly get a 1-year contract from someone at age 36, and he will have one more start this season before it ends, but certainly not a great way to end it for Sugano. His final line and his final potentially start at Oriole Park, at least wearing orange, was 3 innings of 4-run ball on 6 hits, 3 Ks, a walk, 2 homers. And although the Yankees only hit 3 balls hard against him, 2 of them were home runs, and it took him 87 pitches to throw 3 innings. I believe that is the most pitches it's taken any Orioles pitcher to record 9 outs this season, is 87 pitches. I mean, that is truly laboring and laboring and laboring. And honestly, like, it seemed like he was pitching a little bit scared to this Yankee order, trying to be perfect to the Yankees on the corners and just didn't have his perfect command. And you would think he'd be a little better than that. I mean, he previously had one of his best starts of the year against the Yankees back on April 28th. Now, granted, that was, we're talking 5 months ago almost, but he threw 5 scoreless with 8 Ks and 1 walk against this Yankee lineup the first time he faced them. He just couldn't get the Yankees to bite on the splitter. It wasn't as sharp as it usually is. And 3 of the 4 runs did come off that 3-run homer from Giancarlo Stanton in the top of the first inning. And that was a crazy homer, right? 2 strikes, 2 outs. Honestly, Sugano throws a pretty good sweeper. It was in the zone, but it was down and away. And Stanton's just unbelievable strength is able to lean out and just poke it barely over the wall in right field for a 3-run shot. Otherwise, it was just throwing way, way too many pitches. He's going to have one more start in New York next weekend. I right now lean towards not wanting to bring Sugano back. I think someone in the big leagues will give him a 1-year deal for next year. I don't know if it's going to be the Orioles. We'll do a full kind of season recap episode on Sugano in the offseason where I'll give more of my thoughts about whether the O's should offer him some sort of cheap 1-year deal to come back as depth. I would lean towards no. I think I'd still rather have Zach Eflin if you're choosing between the two to be starting depth, but it is possible that he could return to the Orioles. And the shout out for Saturday, the shout out has to go to José Espada, 28-year-old right-handed reliever who the Orioles called up on Friday. Now they had roster moves or roster room because Chase McDermott was placed on the bereavement list on Friday. So certainly sending the best to him and his family. As I'm recording here Sunday night, we haven't heard any updates about when or if he'll be rejoining the team late this season, but it's been a wild ride for José Espada. Was in indie ball at one point, signed with the Padres, debuted with the Padres in the big leagues for one single game in 2023. Then went over to Japan in 2024, came back to the Padres on a minor league deal this year, never got back to the bigs. Padres released him in July, and the Orioles signed him to a minor league deal. And in his contract, presumably, he had an opt-out on August 11th, where the Orioles either had to add him to the 40-man roster or they had to release him. And the Orioles apparently liked enough of what they saw from him in AAA that they actually added him, gave him a 40-man roster spot, and still just optioned him back down to AAA. So they gave him a 40-man spot even without him being on the active roster. That's how much they wanted to keep him in the organization. That kind of told you everything you needed to know about how much the Orioles liked this guy. And we got to see it up close on Saturday. And it was up and down in Norfolk. He threw 16 2/3 innings out of the Tide's bullpen, 5.94 ERA, not very good. 37% strikeout rate, elite. 16% walk rate, concerningly high. He did have a lot of bad luck. He had some absurd whiff rates, like 98th percentile swing and miss in AAA, 97th percentile in-zone swing and miss in AAA. Those stats are courtesy of Prospect Savant. He was missing bats like almost no other AAA reliever when he was with the Orioles. And his outing on Saturday was one of the most impressive relief outings by an Oriole this season. And that was in his Orioles debut and his second big league appearance ever. He also became the 70th player to appear for the Orioles this season, which is a franchise record, but also ties the all-time MLB record. They only need one more different player to appear in these final 6 games to set the big league record. That is the number that injuries have done to this Orioles team. But I mean, 29 pitches for Espada for what should have been 3 perfect innings. He strikes out 4, doesn't walk anyone. He allows just 1 hit, but that 1 hit was a pop-up into shallow right where, what was it? It was Jackson, Holiday, and Mayo all came together, then all went apart from each other, and nobody decided to catch the ball, and it just fell in for what spiritually is an error, but has scored a base hit in the log, and then that runner was thrown out trying to steal second. Great throw by Alex Jackson on that play. So he still faced the minimum, and it should have been a pop-out. It shouldn't have even been a hit. It should have been 3 perfect innings for Espada, and the stuff was great. Fastball 94-96, averaged 20 inches of induced vertical break and was up to 22. That is, what gives the ball kind of that rising action up in the zone. Alex Vesia averages just shy of 21 inches of IVB. He's the MLB leader in that stat. And you can just see it with your eyes that fastball has kind of that quote unquote rising action on it, because there were 2 different times where he threw a 4-seam fastball right down the middle and Yankees hitters just hit a lazy pop-up in the infield. That's how you can tell guys are swinging under pitches, because the ball is not breaking down as much as they expect. Then he threw this splitter, which was Felix Bautista level of splitter. 90 miles an hour, got 6 whiffs on 7 swings against the Yankee hitters. The movement on that pitch was absurd. That thing was dancing. And he also added a slider at 84, which had this really odd movement. The slider kind of looks like the splitter coming out of the hand, and it breaks almost the same way, except the splitter kind of breaks down and to the right. The slider breaks in almost the same way, but just kind of down and to the left with a little bit more almost sharp curveball movement rather than a slider. We didn't see a lot of them, but you also don't see a lot of sliders like that. And that equals deception. And that is what teams are looking for. And that was super deceptive. And also the fact that he threw 3 innings on Saturday and the Orioles didn't option him down for a fresh arm means they probably want to get a couple more looks at him in these final 6 games. I mean, that was nasty. He became just the second Oriole reliever this year to throw 3 innings, at least, allow 1 hit or fewer, no runs, and 4 strikeouts. Dietrich Enns also did it last week in Chicago with 3 perfect innings to end the game against the White Sox. But because Espada should have been perfect, and it was his team debut and just his second big league outing ever, I'm calling that José Espada outing the most impressive relief outing by an Oriole this year. He's only the 4th Oriole ever to have a relief outing that kind of met those parameters and was that good in their first or second big league appearance. He joins, let's remember some guys, TJ McFarland, Armando Benitez, and Paul Mitchell as the three other guys who have done it. He's got 2 more option years beyond this year. I'm doing everything I can to hold on to this guy in the organization. That was some elite stuff we saw from Espada. But he couldn't help the O's to the win because they got down early. Luckily on Sunday, they did not get down early. They got a great start from Kyle Bradish. They got this game into extra innings, trying to split the 4 games. And then it became kind of a disaster. We'll talk about what happened in the Orioles' loss on Sunday to finish off the show coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by Nutrafol. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that one actually works. There's so many products out there, it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. And Nutrafol, it's really a simple add to your day. 4 pills with a meal, no prescription needed. It is truly that easy. So see thicker and stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. And this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I love Monarch because, finance together with my wife now, and it keeps all our money in the same place, keeps us a clear view of our financial health. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. So the O's get the win Friday night. They lose Saturday. And they had a chance to win it on Sunday. They got it to extra innings, and that's where things all fell apart. They lose 7-1 on Sunday afternoon. They dropped 3 out of 4 in this series against the Yankees. And the Orioles, with 6 games remaining in the season, officially will finish with a losing record. They now sit at 73-83 on the year. Now I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from that Orioles loss to the Yankees on Sunday afternoon. The first thing you need to know is Kyle Bradish is kind of making you forget he ever had elbow surgery. It's now a 2.25 ERA in 5 starts for Bradish since returning from Tommy John surgery and the internal brace back in late August. And his 39 strikeouts he now has in his first 5 starts of the season, that's 4th all-time in Orioles history. Only 3 other O's pitchers have had more strikeouts in their first 5 starts of a single season. Bob Turley, in the Orioles' debut season in 1954, had 42 of them. Dylan Bundy in 2018 had 40, and Tom Phoebus in 1968, year of the pitcher, also had 40. And again, for Bradish, on Sunday, the slider was his #1 most used pitch, but he mixed all 4 offerings. He located well. He threw some sinkers in the mid-90s that had just unbelievable arm side run. We're going from left to right like nobody's business. The Yankees, especially against that sinker, had no chance on Sunday afternoon. And he just ran out of gas a little bit, I think, in the 6th inning. A lot of 4-pitch walk to the #9 hitter. Then he hit Judge on a sinker that got way in. And then he was 1 strike away from getting out of a jam, line drive to left. Dylan Carlson didn't make the best play on that ball that ended up being the game-tying single, but he did redeem himself. Very nice batter, made an outstanding running catch in the gap to end the inning and save multiple more runs from scoring. The final line for Bradish in his final home start of the year: 6 innings of 1-run ball, 2 hits, 9 Ks, and 2 walks. No homers on 91 pitches for him. Yankees had 5 hard hit balls against him. It's awesome to see him look this good coming back from TJ. He would be scheduled to make one final start this year. It would be next Sunday at Yankee Stadium on the final day of the year. But there's always the chance that because he's coming off Tommy John and you want to give a shot to somebody else, that maybe the Orioles would call up someone like a Cameron Weston or something and just give them that start on the final day with nothing to play for. So if this is it for Bradish in 2025, With the way he's looked, I feel confident he's healthy and that he can be an ace for this Orioles team for hopefully a full season in 2026. Second thing you need to know from Sunday's loss is that Samuel Basallo hit his 4th home run of the season. Hanging curveball from, be careful, as Ben and Kevin and Jim were on Sunday. That is Cam Schlittler, the rookie starter for the Yankees on Sunday. Hung a curveball. Basallo blasts it towards the flag court in right field, just missed Utah Street, but 420 feet off the bat in the 5th to finally open the scoring and put the Orioles up 1-0. His last 2 home runs have been absolute moonshots on curveballs down and in from righties. I think they'll know not to throw balls there anymore. Otherwise, he hasn't hit that much, right? It's just a .618 OPS for Basallo since coming up, but we know the power is there, and since he kind of had that defensive debacle game in Chicago last week, he's been much better defensively behind the plate, looked good receiving and blocking on Sunday. So you certainly like to see that as the young catcher continues to grow. Third thing you need to know from this Orioles extra inning loss on Sunday is that the O's offense once again just could not get anything going. That solo home run from Basallo was their only run of the day. They were only able to put together 4 hits in this one. They did walk 6 times, and they actually are leading baseball in walk rate in the month of September, so that's at least a positive from this offense. But otherwise, this month has been a big-time negative for this Orioles offense. They have now scored 61 runs in 19 games in September. That's just 3.2 runs per game. That is the lowest in the majors. The Pirates have also scored 61 runs this month, but they've done it in 18 games. So spiritually, the Orioles, I would say, have the worst offense in September. They have scored more than 4 runs just once in the last 16 games. That is insane. So you're thinking, Connor, how in the world has September been kind of their best month, right? They're 12-7 in September. Well, they are 4th in starting pitcher ERA at 2.93 this month. That's why they're winning a bunch of low-scoring games, and their bullpen's throwing the ball really well. But there is nothing going on for this Orioles offense right now. Speaking of the bullpen, 4th thing you need to know from Sunday is that the bullpen was really good to at least get it to extras. Dietrich Enns bounced back to post a 0 in the 7th. Faced Jazz Chisholm again, and this time he struck him out. Notice that he didn't throw his cutter, and instead he threw his 3 best pitches, the 4-seam fastball, the changeup, and the curveball, mostly 4-seam fastball and changeup, to go and get Jazz. Rico Garcia got himself in and out of trouble again, loaded the bases, but put up a 0 in the 8th inning. And how about Cade Stroud striking out the side in a 1-1 game with some absolute filth in the top of the 9th inning? His 4-seam fastball cutter combo was unhittable. They let him face Judge in the 10th, did walk him on a 3-2 pitch, but he looked really good. And altogether with Kyle Bradish, the Orioles set a new season high. Orioles pitchers, 6 of them that they used in this game, 17 strikeouts. Now, again, it was in 10 innings, and they did K2 in the 10th, but still 15 in 9 innings would be second on the year. And the 17 strikeouts, most by the Orioles pitching staff in a single game since July 30th, 2023, also against the Yankees. That was when they struck out 18 batters in a 9-3 win on Sunday Night Baseball against the Yanks. And it's just the 12th game in Orioles franchise history in which the O's struck out at least 17 batters, but only the 4th time they've done it in a loss. Pretty rare to strike out 17 plus and lose. Last time they did that, July 5th, 1997, in a 6-5 loss to the Tigers. Mike Mussina struck out 14 in that game. And the 5th and final thing you need to know from the Orioles' 7-1 extra innings loss to the Yankees on Sunday afternoon to wrap up this series is that, unfortunately, the 10th inning was a disaster. The Orioles pitched and pitched and pitched and didn't hit and didn't hit and didn't hit for 9 innings. And then they went to the 10th. Cade Stroud stayed in to face Judge to start the inning, walked him on a 3-2 pitch. 1st and 2nd, no outs. In comes Keegan Aiken. And Ben and Jim on the broadcast were not very happy about that move. And they made you know why. Keegan Aiken is a reverse splits guy. He's been much better against righties than lefties this year, as is Cade Stroud, who's been better against lefties than righties. And a lefty in Cody Bellinger, followed by a lefty in Ben Rice, were due up in the Yankees order. And it's not only that, Cody Bellinger has destroyed lefties this year. He has hit .351 against left-handed pitching entering Sunday. Righties have gotten him out at a higher clip. All the numbers pointed to either going to another righty or Cade Stroud just staying in the game. Instead, here comes Keegan Aiken for his 4th outing in the last 6 days. Single to Bellinger, Ben Rice grand slam on a 1-2 fastball that legitimately was the most middle pitch I've ever seen. Then a strikeout to Austin Slater. Then another home run by a lefty in Jazz. All of a sudden, it's 6-1 with 1 out in the 10th, and Aiken gets removed for Yarmil Geraldo. And the fact that Mancelino had Geraldo ready to come in after Aiken facing just 4 batters means Mancelino only really brought in Aiken to face the lefties. That was his plan the whole time. and he is worse against the lefties. Manzolino's kind of doing the same thing with Dietrich Enns, who is also a reverse splits left-hander, and he's mostly bringing him in for the shorter outings to face lefties. And again, you're in a bad spot no matter what with the current, even though this bullpen's been pitching well, it's this bullpen who lost its 5 best relievers right around the deadline against the Yankees, the number 1 offense in baseball. It's generally not going to go your way, but if you're not going to play the numbers, it's going to make it even worse, and it's going to make it less likely that you're strongly considered to keep the managerial job for this team moving forward if you are Tony Manzolino. For me personally, I don't think it's the right decision, but I don't know. Again, it's the veteran reliever versus the rookie guy. Would I rather Stroud get those big-time stressful appearances to learn from than Aiken? Yeah, but at the end of the day, the O's are out of it. If they were still in this, I'd probably feel a little bit stronger about what happened in that 10th inning, but it's Keegan Aiken. He just gave you 3 consecutive saves. This is not going to be the role he pitches in next year. He was bound to give you one of those, and unfortunately, it really blew up in the Orioles' face as they gave up 6 runs in the 10th inning for the first time since 1995. Lost the game and lost 3 out of 4 in the series to the Yankees. But that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Orioles are off today, final off day of the season. I will still have an episode, though, for you on Tuesday. We're going to break down some Orioles news and notes. O's claimed another relief pitcher on waivers, Dom Hamill. Talk about how he could potentially help the O's moving forward. Got some other roster moves to get to. Adley Rutschman is close to returning, and Charlie Morton was DFA'd by the Tigers. We'll dig into all that and more coming up on tomorrow's episode. But until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.